Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode, today's edition of Wisdom of the Soul, presented by the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. I was watching some of my past classes, and it occurs to me that I've failed to mention for some time that I do private work. I do private intensives, one-on-one sessions by phone or Zoom, usually telephone. People like Zoom. WhatsApp, FaceTime, doesn't matter. Whatever floats your boat. First one's free, and that's usually about 30 minutes or so. And then you can book a 1 hour or a 90-minute, although there's no obligation. So if you want to check that out and see what it's about, bring me your problems, your need to make a decision, your anxieties and stresses and confusion, and we'll offer you not advice, but practical and portable tools to help you sort through it yourself. That's the difference between what I offer and psychotherapy. It's an educational alternative to psychotherapy. So to learn more about that or to schedule yourself with my online calendar, just go to michaelbenner.com and actually on the home page, the landing page, you see a big red circle where you can schedule the initial session for free and, as I say, no obligation. When and if you're unable to attend this class, Wisdom of the Soul, on Sunday morning, you can find it on YouTube in its entirety as a video. Search Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. An edited version without the meditation and the Q&A is available as an audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts, all aggregators and podcatchers and player apps and directories and such. I think we're pretty much everywhere. I've done my best to. You can even say, "Hey Siri," or "Hey Alexa," or "Hey Google," or ask your audio assistant to play Ageless Wisdom Mystery School, and they do it. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing time we live in. Today, we're going to talk about letting go, which I think is, man, so important. This is such a cornerstone of personal and transpersonal development. The holding on is a problem. And what are we holding on to? And why do we do it? Why do we hold on to our pain? Why do we hold on to our suffering? Why do we feel stuck? As if our anxiety is holding on to us, or our problems are clinging to us and we can't shake them. When in fact, if what I say has merit, we're holding on to it or them. And what is this phenomena of mind that creates these attachments? Essentially, I think it's really quite simple, though the implications are extraordinary and very complex. We're all the way down to the meaning and purpose of life. We feel separate and alone. And we appear to be separate and alone because as spiritual beings or beings of some sort of energy, we are incarnated into separate bodies in a world of separate form. We've always heard no two solid objects can occupy the same space at the same time. And so we shouldn't be surprised that our life is filled with efforts to reach out and make a connection. Whether it's in conversation or a smile, a chuckle or a laugh, holding hands or a wonderful hug, or making love, or even that sweet nostalgia of waving goodbye. Connection, that's what we want. Our attraction to material goods is not dissimilar. In other words, let me say it without the double negative. is related. our our connection, one might even say obsession with material objects. That Amazon package arrives at the door and it feels like Christmas morning. Um, and it's just every area of our lives, whether it's a relationship or a material object, whether it's our belief systems and patterns of thinking or behavior, our habits, even our sense of self, we cling to and hold on to. And I guess where it becomes most apparent and most frustrating is when we find ourselves holding on to our pain. And again, we rarely even consider it because we feel stuck, as if the anger, the sadness, the need to be right. These are the three I chose in the newsletter this week. Examples of feelings that we think are being done to us. So I'd like to shake this anger. I just can't seem to put it down. It's got a hold of me. And someone says to you, well, get a grip. And then you hold on even tighter. Or sadness. It doesn't occur to us that we're holding on to sadness. But don't we play the sad stories over and over and over when we are depressed? Don't we review all the reasons that we're depressed as if that's going to help us put it down? Or the need to be right. Maybe you've made some progress with that. Maybe you've decided understanding is really superior and you've softened as you've matured. Well, these are just some of the areas we're going to explore. And it really all begins when we talk about letting go with letting go of muscular tension. And that's what meditation is. So let's do our opening meditation and prepare for today's class. So find your position, get comfortable on the furniture, wherever you may be, however you may be sitting, cross-legged on a cushion or on your bed, or sitting in a chair with your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes and turn your attention to how it feels to be supported by that furniture. And remind yourself that you need not cooperate with the furniture. The furniture is not depending upon you to make sure you're supported. The furniture handles that. May sound silly to say, but if you acknowledge that the furniture you're sitting on is going to support you as surely as the floor will support the furniture, you can let go of the unconscious tension that we tend to hold. And as you scan your body slowly from head to toe, just like the scanner on your computer desk, just slowly sweep the full length of your body, releasing any residual tension. And pay particular attention to those areas where you know muscular tension tends to gather. And feel that relaxation, that letting go feeling. Supplement this with a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths. I say a couple, 3 or 4 would be better. Pulling in strength and power as you inhale, ideally through the nose. Hold for just a moment as you peak and as you exhale just as slowly. That's the side where you feel even greater letting go, like a relief or a release. Pause for a beat when you're fully exhaled, and do that a few more times. Fully oxygenating your body. And as you exhale, blowing out all that CO2 and all that waste as if it were black, oily smoke. Inhale the good air. Out goes the bad air. Becoming more and more relaxed with each cycle of your breathing. And then turn that over to autopilot. Allow your body to breathe itself. And feel that letting go. A letting go from being the one who deliberately breathes to the watcher, the witness, the observer of your body breathing itself. That's a letting go. And so, of course, your trust is in the fact that your body will continue to breathe without your constant attention. Consider how much we micromanage our day and wonder how much of that micromanaging, that worry, that doubt, that decision making could be released if you trusted life as fully as you trust your body to breathe itself, even when you're not paying attention. As you trust your heart to beat, food to be digested, and thousands of other subtle reactions and responses, chemical changes in the body, most of which we don't even understand, yet trust. Feel the letting go. Allow yourself to trust. Trust your body, trust life. Spend a few moments with your attention gently focused on the bottom of your nose. And understand that this could be a meditation of 15 or 20 minutes of doing nothing more than watching your body breathe from a non-attached viewpoint. As the witness rather than the breather. This is an in-breath, you say to yourself silently. This is an out-breath. Simple enough, may even seem silly. But notice how your mind jumps around. Though all you're asking of yourself is to watch the breath at the point where it enters and leaves the body, at the rim of the nostrils. Do this for just 1 minute until you hear my voice again. And now let's do the same thing, observing our thoughts, those intrusive ideas that petition us for our attention, even when our thinking is not task-oriented, deliberate, or purposeful. The mind has a way of continuing to think as if it has its own agenda. But just as you can be the awareness of your breathing, you can step back, let go, and be the awareness of the thinking. Do your best for 60 seconds until you hear my voice again, to simply observe without judgment, without engaging the thought, what your mind does on its own in terms of thinking. Watch where it goes. And now bring to mind a strong emotional feeling. Remember a recent occasion when you were irritated or disturbed, upset, frustrated, maybe humiliated, angered. Move your awareness into your body, into the torso, somewhere around the heart or the belly. It's a strong negative emotion. Maybe even lower the abdomen or the pelvis. Find where in the body you felt that irritation and allow it to rise again. But now let go. Step back. Become non-attached. Be the awareness of the feeling as if you were observing someone else. And notice your perspective. Notice the shift for about 60 seconds until you hear my voice again. And now, recall an occasion when you were dealing with a difficult person, or you had your own difficulty communicating. You were frustrated and irritated by the engagement. Consider whether in this particular situation, the one that comes to mind now, trusting your first impression, if it had occurred to you at the time, would you have been able to let go of your need to be right, your need to be agreed with, even your need to be understood? And if not immediately in the engagement, as you remember it now, is there some point where you could have just let it all go? Consider that for 60 seconds or so until you hear my voice again. I suspect we all know the serenity prayer. We've heard it before, asking for the serenity to help us accept what we cannot change, what we have no control over. The courage to change what we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's letting go on all levels that offers us the opportunity to glimpse the wisdom in participating in life in a new way, as a witness. A participant, yes, one who can improve and modify circumstances, one who's willing to change and grow, and yet who is aware that all of that begins with accepting reality, the here and now. You see, acceptance is not giving in or giving up or telling yourself it's fruitless and there's nothing you can do about it. Acceptance is simply to acknowledge reality, to trust it, to know that the universe conspires to support you, for you are not other than. You are the universe, and the universe is you. You are not separate, except in appearance. There is no otherness, except in appearance. There is no duality, no yin and yang, other than in appearance. Because energy vibrates. Spirit is energy. All things vibrate. The most dense mass, the densest material, is vibrating energy. And so it has its duality in form, a peak and a trough, a yin and a yang, a North Pole and a South Pole, a coming and a going. It's part of the cyclic nature, around and around and around, of all things. Even life itself is cyclic. So in form, in the world, we have the appearance of duality and this sense of separation and otherness, and all of our struggles and all of our suffering comes from holding on for dear life. As if we didn't hold on, we would fly off into oblivion, into nothingness. And so we hold on to our pain and our suffering and our confusion. We hold on to relationships that don't work and don't serve us. We even hold on to a sense of self that is false, or it's based on the idea that you're alone. Nothing could be further from the truth. Letting go is trusting. Like the roller coaster where half of the people hold on for dear life. The bar comes down or they're belted in. They're secure and safe as could be, but they still white-knuckle the ride. And once they get off, they vow they'll never do that again. But the other half love it. They throw their arms up in the air and they shout and they cheer. And they experience their fear as excitement. Very similar feeling, except the feelings that we call fear and the feelings we call excitement, though similar in the body, when we hold on, we experience them as fear. When we let go, we experience those same feelings as excitement. And so letting go turns the headwind into a tailwind. Letting go turns oh no into oh boy. And when you get off that ride, you're more likely to run around and get in line again. But it's the same roller coaster, don't you see? It's the same ride. It's not a different roller coaster. It's a different level of awareness. Holding on or letting go. There's no need to hold on. Not to our pain and suffering, not to our habits and our addictions, not to our thought patterns, belief systems, not to material objects and the appearance of things, and certainly not to a false sense of self. Notice whenever you let go of physical tension, and be the awareness, or of your thoughts and your emotions, certain reflexive behaviors or relationships, when you let go and become the awareness, the observer, say to yourself, and yet I remain. And still, I remain. I am the awareness. I am consciousness. I am love. That's what love is. The awareness that there is no other, no separation, no individuality, in spite of appearances. There is one thing, a universe. And still I remain. I am that. Form the intention to return to the wide awake state. Prepare yourself by simply remembering where you are. Feel the furniture supporting you. Remember the class you're sitting in on Zoom. Feel it rising up as if awakening naturally and gently in the morning, drifting upward toward the waking state. And now open your eyes, wide awake, eyes open, wide awake, back in the room. Take a big breath. And exhale slowly. Maybe stretch a little. Get back in your body. Make sure your toes are in the toe places and your fingers are in the finger places. Get all plugged in. And welcome back. Thank you for that. It's pretty far out, you know? Letting go is the path to expanded awareness. Letting go is the path to higher consciousness. Awareness, consciousness, love, they're all the same thing. It's understanding. It's getting hip to the trick. It's, oh my God, I've been watching a movie. I got so into this movie that I forgot I was in a movie theater. This was me. I can think of several movies where I got lost in the movie, especially, you know, like horror films or movies that really scared me. Jurassic Park. My unconscious mind totally forgot that I was watching colored light flashing on a white wall in a movie theater in Century City. And I left that movie theater knowing consciously, my little conscious mind knew that I had just seen a film. I think I paid $30 for popcorn. How could you forget? And yet I'm driving around LA looking for dinosaurs on the horizon. I just I had to talk about holding on, right? It took me a while to shake that. And so life's the same way. We are assembling these movies in our brains, right? All you're getting is reflected light and is perceived by this optic nerve that vibrates because everything is vibration. And then somewhere in the back of the brain, an image is assembled. And of course, it's upside down and backwards, so the brain has to flip it around. And I think I told the story of like 20 years ago. Uh, I had some serious hemorrhaging in my eyes, and there was blood pooling in the bottom of my eyes. But my brain observed it as pooling in the top of my eyes. It was the weirdest thing. It was like looking at a pool of water while I'm standing on my head. You know, it was up here. And then I remembered my high school science and the nature of optics and the way lenses reverse the image. And of course, the doctors fixed all of that and it went away. But if they had not, if that image had remained for enough time, I don't know, days or weeks or months or whatever, at some point the brain would have gone, oh, I see, wait a minute, and gotten that turned around and inverted and reversed, and I would have seen it at the bottom of my eyes. And we could talk about optical illusions. It's just an absolute miracle. And so too, hearing. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I mean, my vocal cords are vibrating. Everything is energy. Everything vibrates. That vibrates the air. That's picked up by this way too expensive microphone and sent as vibrations down a wire and through a microphone adapter and into the computer and through the modem and out on the internet, and you get it, and it comes through vibrating and vibrates a speaker, a paper speaker cone, or earbuds or headphones or some sort of diaphragm is vibrating, and that vibrates the air, and that vibrates the eardrum, and that signal is sent into the brain, and you hear me just as if you're sitting next to me. What a miracle. And we say, well, that's reality. I hear you. Well, is it any wonder that 10 different people are going to hear a single statement in 10 different ways with 100 different implications? That's why eyewitnesses always come up with a different story. 5 people saw the car accident. They have 5 very different stories of what happened. Eyewitness accounts are usually very unreliable in that way because we're all seeing a different movie. We're all experiencing a different reality, a different appearance of things. We have our biases. What if you just let go of all of that? What if you let go and stood back? I don't mean let go and become unconscious. We don't meditate to escape. We meditate to wake up. It's about letting go to become more conscious and more aware. And when you combine this with an absence of judgment, we stop being so judgmental and just observe. You find life is not happening to you. Life is happening. But the to you is a matter of you taking it personally. You see? Life doesn't happen to you. It didn't happen to you. It's not happening to me. It's happening. And and I involve myself somehow. I get in the way. Right? Gridlock on the freeway in LA. It didn't happen to you. It just happened and you happened to be there. Don't take it so personally. Why get upset? Right? Accept what you cannot control. That's the problem with holding on and grasping and clinging and clutching, which is what the mind wants to do. It's looking for control. It wants to control. Why? Because it's terrified, because fear. We did a class just a couple of weeks ago on the nature of fear. Let's talk about fear for just a minute. It's really fundamental to this holding on thing and the ability to let go. On the shattering and scattering of conscious awareness, making us really quite dense and dull. That's what stress does, makes us, I don't want to say stupid. Actually, I do want to say it, but it's not accurate. We're not stupid, we're brilliant. But when we're stressed, we become unaware. And that's what fear is. Fear has nothing to do with danger. I don't care what the dictionaries tell you, they're wrong. Fear has absolutely nothing to do with danger at all, or any kind of threat, real or imagined. Fear is a feeling, one of the most basic fundamental feelings associated with not understanding things. Fear is ignorance. Fear is unawareness. Fear is a lack of consciousness. And you can call it anxiety and say, well, many clinicians will do this. Fear is a response to danger. Anxiety is a response to overstimulation and confusion. No, it's all the same. Well, what about just a little bit of worry? Or I'm not afraid, I'm just a little nervous. Or who, me? I'm not afraid. I have my concerns, but you can't call it fear. Yeah, you could, if you had the courage to recognize what it really is, whether it's a little or a lot. Just a concern, a little worry, nervousness, mild apprehension, panic, terror, horror, freak out, and everything in between, a little or a lot. It's all the same thing. Fear, anxiety, stress, muscular tension and pressure that result from that, the holding on. It's all a response to not understanding. It's confusion, it's uncertainty, it's ignorance. And if fear is too frightening of a word and ignorance too insulting, then call it anxiety and confusion. Don't understand how they promote each other. Whether you call it fear or anxiety, or I'm just slightly concerned, it's a feeling of trepidation, of well, those are the words. It's a feeling of apprehension, of fear, of, oh no, what's going to happen? I don't know. But the irony is that creates confusion, anxiety, fear, whatever you call it. It scatters, it shatters and scatters awareness, confuses us. Right? In the middle of an argument with someone you love and care about, you never had a great idea. You're not suddenly gobsmacked. Oh my God, I just had this brilliant idea. The creative process is such that you're never creative when you're stressed, unless it's a pure accident. Creativity, a rich imagination, profound understanding and insight is a relaxation skill. Even concentration is a letting go. That's letting go empowers you. Stress and tension, holding on, disables you. Letting go enables you, in the best sense of the word. I know enabling has a negative connotation in the field of codependence, but you know what I'm saying. Stress, tension, muscular tension, holding on, whether it's freaking out or just being a little nervous, makes things worse, which is scary. So that compounds the fear, which makes you even more ignorant and confused, which is terrifying. And now you're even more afraid, more confused, and more afraid. And it's that vicious cycle of fear and ignorance that we call being stuck. And feel as if it's holding on to us. I just can't seem to shake the feeling that something horrible is going to happen. I will confess that I spent much of my life waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I bet you know exactly what I'm talking about. My brain told me, my muddled, confused, stressed out brain said that there was some strategy that was in my interest, some benefit, a means of being careful in perpetual worry, always looking out. Oh, what's going to happen next? What horrible thing? I just got everything in order. I mean, almost in order. Nobody's ever finished their to-do list, but things are pretty much in order. Now I'm looking around for everything to fall apart. It's going to happen any day, any minute now. Something horrible is going to happen. I just know it. I feel it in my body. I'm a pretty intuitive person, and I know things are going to go south eventually. And of course, because you reap what you sow, sure enough, that expected obsession manifests in your life. Now we have evidence. See, I told you something horrible was going to happen. That's why I'm a pessimist. It's not pessimism, it's realism. I'm a realist. I can't be an optimist. I'm a realist. I know everything falls apart eventually. Okay. If you want to dig up the dirt in the backyard and add soil amendment and rake it over smoothly and make a nice patch of ground, and then plant weeds and briars and brambles and how about some poison ivy? Go ahead. The earth will happily grow that for you. If, on the other hand, instead of worry, which promotes this holding on and more worry and fear and more confusion and more holding on, what if we replace that with its antithesis? Another kind of circle, but this one not a vicious cycle of fear and ignorance pulling us down, but an upward spiral. What would the antithesis be? What is the opposite of fear? Well, it's love. And what's the opposite of ignorance? Well, it's understanding. Don't those words go together? Love and understanding? You've heard that. You probably heard peace, love, and understanding. Didn't Elvis Costello do a song? Peace, love, and understanding. So notice you have the same cycle, though, that peaceful, loving feeling not only promotes understanding and insight, and wait a minute, I took a breath and I relaxed, I let go. That's our lesson today. Letting go of what? I let go of the holding on. What was that caused by? Fear. What's that about? Not understanding. I let go of all of that, and I began to understand. And that was a big relief. Well, I understand now. I have options. I have choices. So that enhances the peace, makes you more aware. That's what love is, consciousness, awareness. So that promotes understanding, which makes you more loving, more conscious, more aware, promotes understanding. Same cycle, but this one is up. We touched on this a week or two ago. It certainly bears repeating. And the question is, well, how do I get from the downward vicious cycle of fear and ignorance, that holding on cycle, to the upward love and understanding? If you've ever wondered about that biblical phrase, or it occurs in philosophy a lot outside of organized religion, about love driving out evil. It's love driving out fear. And how does that do that? How does love drive out fear and evil, which is based on fear and ignorance? Evil presents itself only when there is ignorance. Well, love drives out evil, love drives out fear, in the same way that understanding drives out ignorance by virtue of what it really is. In the same way that heat shatters cold. There is no struggle. Cold is not a power or a force, right? Your refrigerator, your freezer doesn't make cold. It's not a thing. It just pumps out heat. Heat is real. In the same way, light vanquishes shadow. Shadow is not a thing. It has no source, has no speed. What's the speed of shadow? What's the speed of darkness? Well, where does it come from? I don't know. But we do know that about light. Light has a speed, 186,000 miles a second. Same as radio. Same as consciousness. That's the speed of energy. And light has a source. It may be a star or sun. It could be a lamp, a candle, a fireplace, a lightning bug. It has to have a source. Light is a thing. It's real. Darkness is the absence. They're opposite in terms only of semantics. See, there really is no struggle between good and evil, is there? There's just understanding and ignorance. So what do? We educate people. We raise consciousness. This is where I changed careers. I came out of college having no idea what to do. I was a hippie. I was totally, you know, well, I mean, I did pretty well in school. I got a degree. I'm proud of, proud of the fact that I did earn a bachelor's degree from a major university, Michigan State, and a great football team and basketball team at that. And that was sort of surprising that I was able to do that. But I was lost. I was this counterculture rock and roller, you know. I had no idea what to do, and I just stumbled into radio, and I couldn't do top 40. I couldn't talk fast enough to be one of those top 40 DJs, and I wanted to be in radio, so I figured, well, I'll do the news. Besides, I was really interested. I'd been interested in folk music and, Bob Dylan and Pete Seeger and all these communists that were singing these, Woody Guthrie, and organizing labor and opposing war and civil rights. And I mean, even the commercial Peter, Paul, and Mary, and just singing Dylan's tunes. And so I had some politics, of course. Actually, I had a draft card. That makes you that makes you political really quickly. So I thought I'll do the news. Well, I did that, and after 15 years or something of doing the news, I realized this is not the truth I'm looking for. Rewriting news releases and wire stories about government and politics, this is not the truth I'm looking for. Right? And so I began searching psychology. And positive psychology was just beginning. Until that time, it had been almost all abnormal psych. studying schizophrenia and paranoia and uh, personality disorders like, narcissism or borderline. And the idea of, why don't we study healthy, happy people and see if we can figure out why they're healthy and happy? What are they doing? That really came out of the 1960s. And until that time, like I say, it was abnormal psych, and it was running rats through mazes. And then we started studying what healthy, happy people were doing, and the human potential movement came out of that. And I learned meditation, and I learned self-hypnosis. I've employed hypnotherapy for years with my clients. And if they if they're interested in hypnosis and hypnotherapy, that's what we call it. If they don't bring it up, it's meditation or guided imagery. There's really no difference. I could do a class on that. The difference between hypnosis and meditation. There really is none. uh, and that's what led me to this. And that's when my talk show changed. It was early on in the late 70s that, so I said 15 years. It was actually more like 10 years after graduating or less that I realized things are the way they are because of the way people think and feel. And if you want to change the world, you don't go out and change the world at gunpoint. The idea of a Marxist class struggle seemed to me like that Who tune. Here comes the new boss, same as the old boss. And I looked at socialism in not socialism as we think of it in a democratic society like Social Security or freeways, city parks, Social Security. But I looked at communism, at Mao, and at the Soviet Union. There's got to be something between unfettered capitalism and tyrannical communism. There's got to be something else. And that's how I stumbled on the consciousness movement, began to study consciousness. And I'm a beginner. I'm now 75 years old, and I'm just begun to scratch the surface. There's so much here. But I'm telling you, if whenever you're confused and ask yourself, where does this all begin? What is step one? Where is the begin here? Where do I start? How do I become more aware, more awake, more conscious, more loving, kinder, more gentle? How do I replace that feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop, as if that's a way of being careful and wise, so that my life is filled with this vague feeling of dread and apprehension? How do I replace that with feeling at any minute something wonderful is going to happen? Think about it. Wouldn't it be nice if that feeling of something bad's going to happen any minute, with a feeling of any minute now, the phone's going to ring, a package will appear at the door, I'll come across something on the internet, I'll get an email, and something wonderful is going to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I feel this way. It just feels like any minute now, something really killer, something really exciting is going to happen in my life. And then it does. And it promotes that feeling. And then when things do turn south, you have the tools and you say, well, everything passes, it'll fix itself. Our pool is flooding. Our pool is, we're, It's all our backyard is all flooded, and we've been going back and forth with the pool guy. Like, seems like the water's way too low, and then it floods, and then it's way too low, and now it's flooding. I'm not worried about the water bill. I'd rather not waste the water. I'm worried about the foundation, under the pool, under the wall. But I have no control over that other than to call the guy, and we turned off the pump. That's the extent of our control. So I'm optimistic about it. I have to be optimistic about it because one way or another, whatever the situation, good, bad, or otherwise, it will pass. It always does. It has to. That's the nature of things. And so have the courage to change what you can, control what you can control. Every month you got to sit down and pay the rent or the mortgage, or you end up on the street. I understand that. If you're going to drive a car, you got to buy the car, the gas, and pay for the insurance too. Certain realities, we got to do that stuff. But to adopt a more positive attitude is about letting go. Seems odd, doesn't it? Even letting go of judgment when we were taught in school that the way to understand is to figure it out, slice it, dice it, break it down, chop it into fine little bite-sized pieces, and then you'll understand. Maybe greater understanding comes from looking at something without judging it at all. Maybe judgment is limiting. Isn't that what logic is? Deductive, subtracting, breaking into little pieces, general to specific. Letting go is inductive. It's the other way. It's specific to general. Letting go allows you to see the bigger picture, including this will pass. It always does. And if your life's really great, that'll pass too. And the shoe will drop and the pool will flood or the dishwasher breaks or stuff happens. So what? Handle it. It'll pass. To be the watcher instead of the doer, to just identify as the human being rather than the human doing, much less the human micromanaging. Take a breath, relax, let go. You don't have to micromanage everything. And then when it does resolve itself, we take credit for it. It's like, well, see, it's a good thing that I was micromanaging all these decisions. And, well, what did you do, Michael? Well, I really worried a lot. I stressed myself out. I wrung my hands. I rang my hands. What's the word? Ranged. I ranged my hands. I really kind of worried. And then it got resolved. Well, maybe it would have resolved itself with a minimal amount of effort, and you didn't need all that worry and doubt and fear and holding on and feeling like it was done to you. It's 8 minutes after the hour. I'd like to go to questions and comments. CQ&A, comment, questions, and answers. So all you have to do is use that reaction tab in the bottom of your window to raise your hand. Or you can send a note to Melinda. She's our co-host today. Say I have a comment or a question. You may even want to form it in the chat to help you get a concise comment or question. And then she'll call upon you. So either send Melinda a chat or just raise your hand and we'll go to Q&A for the next 20 minutes or so. Melinda?
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. Larry's got an interesting point to put to you.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah, I've had a lot of bad experiences, traumas, life-threatening situations in my life, and I've been able to let go of all of them, and those memories don't have any effect on me now. But when I was 12 years old, approximately, and seems like 1,000 years ago now, but I was nearly caught in a cave, and it's actually a miracle that I got out. But all of those other experiences I can let go and they don't affect me, but that one does. Is it because of the age at which I experienced it? I've been to 4 different hypnotherapists trying to neutralize that memory.
Really?
But I can't let go of it. And I'm just wondering, is that because it happened when I was so young?
Well, let me start with a minor point. Well, first of all, let me answer you directly. Yes and no. The age may play a factor, but not an overriding, enormous factor. I think at any age that could be a harrowing, terrifying experience, and qualifies in today's jargon as PTSD. You're experiencing post-traumatic stress because some part of the unconscious believes you're still in the cave, or that you could find yourself in that situation again. What I would say to you about it is the reason that it haunts you, the reason the fear seems to be holding on to you.
Let me add one thing before you go on. I mean, I don't normally have, it's not something that bothers me all the time. If I see a film with a small cave in it, or something causes me to, an event happens that causes me to remember it, then I will get the jitteries and the shakes and stuff and remember it. But it's not with me all the time, just, once every couple months it'll come up. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So you're not claustrophobic?
No, I can go in I've been in Carlsbad Caverns. I've been, in
How about
closets,
an
all
MRI?
kinds of. What? Pardon me?
How about an MRI?
Oh yeah, yeah. That one bothers me.
How about
that's pretty close.
how about a crowded elevator?
No problem there.
All
Even
right.
though I was in an elevator once by myself late at night, and it collapsed and started falling a few floors, and so that I have an elevator issue too. But
That's
but
separate.
it's not something that I can ride elevators today, no problem.
The approach of the hypnotherapist, which is what I would also do, is to reintroduce you to the memory, to put you back in the cave. As the adult you've become, however, not as the child you were. And I would induce a meditation with visualization, a nice deep relaxation, and have you, as the adult you've become, go back to the cave where you rescue the boy that you were, and explain to the boy that you've come from the future to rescue him and bring him safely out of the cave. Because the adult knows you survived, the little boy in the cave doesn't know that yet. And as weird as that sounds, the experience, provided it's done in a deeply relaxed level of expanded awareness, that experience will go into your memory banks as if it were real. The unconscious doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. And it dilutes the experience, you see. And then you may have to repeat that a few times. So in lieu of that, and you say you've already done some hypnotherapy,
And self-hypnosis, yeah.
self-hypnosis, anytime it occurs to you, I would, as soon as possible, like if you're elsewhere and busy, or You're at work, you're driving a car, grocery shopping, you're not going to be able to do it right away. But as soon as you get an opportunity, go right back there. Close your eyes, see the adult that you've become, the man you are now, crawling back into that cave somehow, and you find waiting there yourself as a child, terrified, right? And tell him, I've come to rescue you. Whether you do that 3 times, 8 times, 10 times, it will dilute the experience and give you the benefit you're looking for. All right?
But you think it was more powerful because of the age? That's why. I mean, I've had a lot, I guess, a lot of traumas, and been able to use these techniques to minimize and eliminate those other ones, but not this one. So you think just keep trying to include in the adult me in the hypnosis. That's something new I haven't done.
Yeah.
So
I think the age has something to do with it, but Larry, I would also have you consider the symbolism of a cave, the symbolism of the womb. Cave as womb, cave as unconscious, cave as hell, the pit of the cave as a grave. All of these things representing something frightening and unknown. It's dark, it's scary. It's highly symbolic, and I would consider it on those various levels as well. What does it remind you of? I know you well enough to know that you can think on those deeper levels.
Okay.
All right, and
Thank
feel on those deeper levels. Thank you. Yeah, Plato. Plato's allegory of the cave is rich for that very reason. It's a wonderful allegory, wonderful, horrible. Okay, Melinda, anybody else?
I just wanted to say a quick thing to Larry. That was a fascinating telling of that. And, there's a reason we don't let kids go to see horror movies and things, because it's a very plastic, impressionable stage of brain development. And that, I think, is part of it. And that what Michael said is going to actually alter those circuits. Certain thoughts come up and then those circuits fire. It's a real phenomenon.
Yep.
Your brain is lighting up to that and going all the way with it. But what Michael said also will work in a biologic sense, because it will create different circuits. They have that saying, circuits that wire together, fire together. So when you get that thought, all these other thoughts come. So, I mean, what Michael says, I think, has some merit. And what you say is very true, that when you were 12, that's no coincidence that it's so powerful for you. And thanks for sharing that with us. It was important. And Jack has something to put out there.
Let me add, before I go to Jack, another allegory that often occurs to me that comes from electricity and electronics, also hydrology, about water and electricity finding a path of least resistance. Every time you repeat a successful rescue of that child as the adult you've become, and you create that new wiring that Melinda's talking about, that new neural net. It's not actual wires, but it's the way the brain fires, the paths and the patterns that it takes. You create these new neural nets. Every time you repeat that successful outcome, the resistance along that neural net goes down. And as the resistance lowers, that's where the electricity wants to go. The marble falls into that groove instead of the old terrifying path left over from childhood. But remember, it's just the brain trying to protect you. Ultimately, it thinks it's doing a good thing by helping you survive. That's the overriding program. Is all freak out is trying to save the separated being from annihilation. And that's why it doesn't want you to meditate. Jack.
Yes. First of all, that was a great meditation. And
Thank you.
and this is something that came to me. What I noticed during the meditation was that when I was relaxing and letting go, when I would see the problems that I have come up, I noticed I was seeing them more as resources and not so much as problems. And even the, I don't know, the sort of large open outward space that I might imagine, where things come to you from the events are going to happen. My when I was in a tense state, I looked at whatever was coming, but I didn't know what it was, but with a more of a sense of apprehension. And that in that relaxed state, I felt like whatever was coming was not just positive, but again, was sort of more like resources. They were useful things were coming. And it really changed my, at least while I was in that relaxed letting go state, it really changed my attitude toward my my environment.
Yeah, if with practice, I'll say, let me rephrase this. As with practice, we begin to understand every problem, every obstacle, uh, every situation we wish to avoid, as instead an opportunity to learn through experience, to understand more deeply, and consider that we're made for this. That old saw, life never gives you anything you can't handle. I think that's true. I think that's why grief comes in waves, because just about the time you can't handle grief, it goes away. Then a few days later, it comes back again with the rest of it. And then you get to a point where you can't handle it and it goes away. So it's served up in portions. And I think we have these safety safety mechanisms built in. Again, the universe is conspiring to support us. We are the universe. We are not other than. There is no other. So it's always on our side. And if we can bring that to mind when life looks terrifying, horrible, difficult, along with the understanding that everything passes, nothing lasts. Nothing lasts forever. Although when you're in the middle of it, that may be the hardest part of all to remember. Depression, for example, is a liar. I know many times my depression, I said that to my depression, and it said, no, I'm here to stay. This time's different. There's no reasoning with depression, and because you cannot find a reason for this, you're stuck with it. I will never leave you. I will always be here. And then a couple of days later, or less, maybe a couple hours later, I get busy and it's gone. And I go, wait a minute, I'm not depressed anymore. To remind yourself of that as well, that everything passes. The Buddhists talk a lot about sky and clouds. Sky and clouds. The cloud rises, it builds, it exists, it floats across the sky, and it dissolves, it vaporizes, it disappears again. And then other clouds rise, and so is, all things pass, nothing lasts. And to remember that in the midst of these difficult experiences, it might be a good idea even to remember it when you're feeling really happy and joyous. That something's going to come along that's going to knock me off center, but I don't have to worry about it. I can rather count on it. Something's going to break. One of my appliances or my car or, so you just do the best you can. But I remember someone teaching me, in fact, I can tell you who it was. Trying to pull on the name now. I'll think of it in a minute. And it was a guest on my show several times. Boy, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I'll remember in a minute. He said, imagine driving through a beautiful area, like a national park, some gorgeous forested place, beautiful meadows, granite walls, like Yellowstone or Yosemite or the Rocky Mountains or, any one of a number of places that are just beautiful. The Grand Canyon, you stand at the rim of the Grand Canyon, you can scarcely even believe it's real. And then consider having that exact same experience when you have the flu and you feel horrible and you're sick and nauseous and your nose is plugged up and you're coughing, and life is going to seem very different. It's not going to seem so beautiful, so grand, or so glorious. But like that roller coaster ride, the roller coaster didn't change. And the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone or Yosemite, it's just as beautiful as it always was. It's us that changes. And to know that is to give ourselves the opportunity, again, to take a breath, to become mindful. Oh yeah, here I go again. This is a pattern. Let it go. Step back to a non-judgmental awareness of things. In this case, it would be, well, I'm sick. I don't really want to be here. I don't want to be anywhere. Best I just, drink my liquids and sleep and maybe get some chicken soup or whatever and just ride this thing out. But own it. Take responsibility for it instead of blaming the world for the way we feel. That's all part of letting go too. Sorry, I wandered a bit far from your point, but to see challenges and adversity as opportunities, that's a good thing, Jack. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Melinda, anybody else? Melinda,
No, not right now.
Okay. Well, unless you have something, I'm going to wind it up then.
I want to ask you a quick question, Michael,
Sure.
because I've got some stuff that I have lingering that, just kind of perpetuates. And I wonder if that has anything to do with either I'm trying to dig deeper than I need to, or if maybe there's something in there that I have yet to discover, and that once I get what I need out of a situation, then it won't be necessary anymore. Kind of like, if you're in some sort of fit, you stub your toe, you're in physical pain, you can acknowledge that the pain is there, and then you don't need the pain as a reminder anymore.
Well, I think the latter, but I've already forgotten your first one. What was the choice? What was the first option?
If it lingers because there's still something I need to learn from it.
Oh, I think both things are true. I don't think that's an or. I think that's an and. Yeah, there's always something to learn. Again, life's conspiring to support you. So the things that happen to us, the obstacles, the adversities that we would rather avoid, why do bad things happen to good people? Why me? Why is this? Why do I have to suffer so? whatever it is. I could list some things, but I don't think I need to do that. There's plenty of horrible things that could happen to anybody, and usually each one of us gets our fair share along the way. Just consider that every one of those things is an opportunity to understand something that you apparently could not have learned any other way. Perhaps there was an opportunity to learn it in a less dramatic fashion, but you didn't. And so this is what I mean by trusting life, that everything, there's a perfection here beyond the veil, such that the appearance of adversity is really in our interest. And how adverse or objectionable or painful it is really a function. I mean, it has its own reality, but it's still primarily a function of how we look at it and how we respond to it. And that's where we do have control. The fact that it happened to us, we have no control over. In fact, it's already happened, so how could you control it in any event? But how we look at it and how we respond is always an option. That's where we find our power in our awareness. So expand the awareness. That's how you look at it. That's that space between stimulus and response, between what happens to you and what you do with it. Open that up. That's a letting go thing, to open that up, to pause, let go of reflexive reactions. Say, well, how can I look at this as an opportunity to learn? This is horrible. I'd give anything to avoid this. Why me? But if it were in my interest, what could I learn from it? If part of me feels like it's dying, maybe it's a part of me that needs to die. Maybe it's a part that's not real and that I could benefit from shedding. Just like in alchemy, the fires of the Athanor burn off the impurities of the dross in the gold ore, and so that only gold remains. So what suffers in this life is everything we need to lose in order to discover our divine nature and the unity behind the veil. That often can just be an intellectual exercise and doesn't really bring us much solace or comfort. But with practice, it's more than a philosophy. And if you yield to that, accept that, learn to roll with it, keep letting go and keep trusting, well, somehow this is in my interest. Somehow there's something here for me to learn. You know, what am I having a hard time letting go of? That if I did let go, this would be so much easier. And it's scary because it's new. You know, the Thich Nhat Hanh quote that I put in the newsletter this week about, how did he say it? I can only paraphrase. People have a hard time letting go of their suffering. By the way, this is in the big book too, in AA, in different words, but the same idea. People have a hard time letting go of their suffering because it's familiar. And we often choose the familiarity of old patterns of suffering rather than risk the unfamiliarity, the newness, the strangeness, and the fears and anxieties with, well, what if I do let go of this? What if I do change? What if I stop doing this? Or what if I start doing this instead? What if I let go, you know, of this relationship, let's say? They broke my heart. All right. So it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go of the relationship. It's hard to let go of the pain. It's hard to let go of the grief and the loss. There's a story in Buddhism in the sutras about Buddha attending a fellow monk that he knew quite well on his deathbed. And the monk was laying there with his arms up by his head, and his hands were folded into fists. And he said to Buddha, sometimes it's just so hard to let go. He knew he was dying. And Buddha said, yes, but that's the lesson. And he took his arms and laid them down beside the man's side, encouraging him to relax and let go. It's 12:35. I'm going to end with a story I meant to open with, and then I spaced it out. Another story from a Zen story. No reason to believe it's true, but it's a popular story. Maybe you've heard it. It comes in different forms. These two monks are on a pilgrimage to a remote monastery for a retreat of prayer and meditation, and they come into a village. And it's been raining. The rain has stopped, but the streets are muddy. And they see this aristocratic woman dressed like, and she's obviously ruling class and very, very rich, and dressed in fine silks, and she's hesitant to get out of her sedan chair because the streets are muddy, and she's concerned that her shoes and her silk dress is going to get all covered with mud. And she's very frustrated and angry and yelling at her attendants, whose arms are full of her packages, which they can't set down because of the muddy streets. And so they're looking around, what do I do with the package? Where do I put it down so I can help the woman out of the sedan chair? And these two monks, as they observe this, the younger monk just walks by and ignores it. But the older monk goes over and lifts the woman out of her sedan chair and carries her through the mud to higher ground in a dry place and sets her down. And she ignores him completely. In fact, by her body language, she's even sort of rude, sort of glad that he helped her, but indignant that it was this monk that she had to rely on. So she's mean and nasty and rude. And so the two monks continue down the path, going to their remote monastery, and a couple of hours go by. And suddenly the younger monk says to the other one, he said, I can't believe it. I can't believe you did that. And the older monk says, what? What are you talking about? And he says, back there in the village, you picked up that wealthy woman, even though she was being mean to her attendants and her workers, and you carried her through the mud and set her down, even though she was rude to you and failed to show any appreciation at all. Can't believe you did that. And the older monk, again, you may know the story, says to the younger monk, I put her down 2 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? And that's what we do. We hold on, and we don't know why, and we feel like it's holding on to us. Let it go. Put it down. Take a breath. Turn it over. Let life handle it. What if it's not your problem? Trust life. It'll get fixed with a minimal amount of effort. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today. Sorry I went a little long today. Hope you can join us next Sunday. By the way, the Saturday Salam we began yesterday, and we had 8 of the 9 sign-ups show up. So I've got at least 1 and likely 2 openings, because I'm limiting it to 10. So email me at awmysteryschool if you want to be part of the Saturday Salon. You can read about it on my website, michaelbenner.com. Just click on personal development, and you'll see the studio salon described in there. And email me if you're interested in filling one of those seats. We got a killer group. It's good. It's really going to be meaningful conversations of transformation. That's what that's all about. Every Saturday at 11. Again, thank you for being here. Namaste, aloha, salam. Please unmute, say thank you to your friends, and we'll see you next Sunday. So long.
Thank you. Many blessings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye.
And hello, Jack.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for such a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Kalina.